You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, Bold and Beautiful fans. Today, I want to talk to those of you that do not like this Thomas and Hope pairing, people that are made very uncomfortable by it. And I also want to talk to those that are totally in favor of Thope, just because I wanted to give the counterpoint on why a lot of fans are so deeply bothered by this. I'm personally not bothered by it because I truly think that Thomas has reformed. If he hasn't, and it turns out that way, then retroactively, I'm going to have a big problem. But I know a lot of you guys are deeply divided on this Thomas and Hope pairing. A lot of fans love them together, love their chemistry, love their vibe. And then there's a whole other faction that think the whole thing is super creepy and they hate Thomas together. So I kind of curated the comments and I looked through and I thought about it. And I know why those of y'all that hate them. And I'm going to lay out the 5 reasons. And if there's more things that you have to add, definitely drop it in the comments below. But if you haven't already, please reach down, click subscribe so you don't miss any of our bold updates. So the one thing that I hear probably more than anything else in the comments here on our bold videos, and also I see it on Twitter, I see it on Facebook, I see it all over Soap social media, is a lot of people refer to them as step siblings. A lot of people seem to think that Thomas and Hope are related by marriage. Currently, they are not. But factually, they definitely have been step siblings. As a matter of fact, I think they've been step siblings 8 different times. I think that's the number of Brooke and Ridge's current marriages. I think they are planning marriage number 9 at this point. That's what I think they're on. And so Thomas and Hope grew up on and off together as step siblings. They did live in the same house as siblings for a while growing up, and their parents, if you look at all the years they were married, they were definitely married for a lot of their formative years. And, before the thing where Thomas pursued Hope as a favor to Steffi, they were kind of treated as a quasi brother and sister. If you don't remember this, it was way back in the day when Hope and Steffi early on were competing for Liam. They were all down in Mexico, and Steffi had asked Thomas to distract Hope so she could go off riding ATVs with Liam. It was something like that. And that was really the first time he ever turned his eye on her. And he wasn't particularly into her. He was just doing Steffi a favor. And then the whole thing with him being obsessed with her, that did not start at all until it was recast Matthew Atkinson in the role, and he came back a single parent right after Caroline Spencer had died of that blood clot in her brain. So the entirety of when they were growing up, yes, they were step siblings on and off, but he was not obsessed with her. He didn't want to date her. None of that happened until they were adults. And again, even from the get-go, he was just doing Steffi a favor. And it was later, much later, when he came back to town with just Douglas. So for those of you saying they are step siblings, off and on they have been, but it's a valid point. And I do want to show you guys this picture which popped up on social media, and it is kind of creepy. I will say that. And it is like a teenage looking Thomas holding Hope up in his arms, and she's clearly a little kid. At the same time, what I also want to say is, there's an age difference between my husband and myself, to the point that if you looked at us when I was like in elementary school, all right, and he was in high school, that yes, if there was a picture of us together and you said, oh, they're going to get married, it'd be like, ew, gross. But when you're adults, those age differences matter less and less, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, 20 years for a lot of spouses. So I will say that this photo is extremely disturbing in hindsight, but at the same time, if you're somebody who has an age gap in your marriage of a few years or, several years, then you know what I mean about this. So the age difference doesn't bother me so much because they've now kind of sourced them where they're both about the same age. But this picture really bothers a lot of people, and I see why. So step sibling, that's the first thing that bothers people. Second thing is that Brooke hates Thomas, and there's a whole legion of fans that love Brooke and everything she says and everything she does, and they hate what she hates and they love what she loves. And Brooke keeps hammering Hope, and fans that love her get worked up when she starts on this. And there's a lot of fans that also don't want Hope to follow in Brooke's footsteps and go after the bad boy like Brooke has done in her life. And the bottom line is, Brooke Logan is never going to accept Thomas being with Hope. She's going to continually try to break them up. And fans that like her and agree with, like I said, everything she says and does are going to stick with that. And they are going to hate on Thomas and Hope the same way that Brooke hates on them. Everybody gets to ship who they ship, right? So the third huge reason that a lot of people have a problem with this pairing is the Thomas and baby Beth stuff. So, of course, there's the story of him knowing that Beth was alive, knowing that Beth was living at Steffi's house, and not telling Hope and actively encouraging other people to keep that truth hidden. He did not take her baby. Some people think that he did not take baby Beth. He did not sell baby Beth. That was Dr. Buckingham and his good friend, Felony Flo Fulton, who, by the way, is engaged to Wyatt still. We've never been told they've broken up. And she turned out to be a Logan. And people forgave her for selling Hope's baby, but they don't forgive Thomas for keeping the secret and bullying other people to keep the secret. I think selling a baby is worse than lying about a baby. That's just my opinion. I know people disagree, but the whole thing definitely super sketchy. And he, rationalized it in his head. He was like, oh, well, Beth is in good hands with Steffi. It's fine. He was rationalizing that. And then there's other things that he's done to Hope that were really, really bad. He was gaslighting her. He was using Douglas to get close to her. He had that whole thing where he was going to fake marry Zoe and then was hoping that Hope would marry him instead. He definitely was up to no good. But then after all that, they gave him some kind of brain condition. It was like some bleeding in the brain. There was some kind of thing. It wasn't a tumor. It wasn't cancer, but there was something going on in his brain that he needed brain surgery for back when he was like trying to make sweet love to that Hope mannequin, which was just so gross and appalling. Just, ugh. I just can't even not think about it. The Barbie movie just came out and he had a little doll of his own in a box, right? He was clearly batcrap crazy and medically had something wrong with him because he had collapsed. Remember, Hope found him and, she got him to the hospital and they did the brain surgery. Since then, he's been okay, other than the Brooke CPS call thing, which I kind of think she had it coming for threatening to call CPS on him because he was cutting an apple with a tiny paring knife, which we all do. We all do around our kids. So I still kind of feel like Brooke kind of stirred that pot on her own. But there is at least some sort of medical explanation for some of what he's done. Other of what he's done, I think he was just being super sketchy. And the Thomas and Beth thing is a thing that a lot of people are never going to get over. And so they're never going to accept Thomas with Hope. Another reason is I think a lot of fans and Thomas's family are very worried he is going to get obsessed again with her. Steffi and Taylor were very worried about Hope showing any interest in him. And of course, Taylor's going to find out this week that Thomas and Hope are sleeping together and she's going to kind of freak out. Ridge was worried about this. He was very worried because Hope was actually the one putting the moves on Thomas, and Ridge kind of was feeling like Hope was putting Thomas in a bad position by showing interest in him. And Ridge is worried too that Thomas could go down that dark path because he's made so much progress. Steffi's worried. A lot of people just worry that all the progress he made is going to be completely trashed because Hope has initiated this physical relationship with him. And of course, they worry that Thomas could go to a dark place and he could start acting out again. And that is absolutely a valid concern. And then the last faction of fans, I think, that have a real problem with Thomas being with Hope is because they are hardcore Hope and Liam shippers. Despite Liam being the ultimate waffle boy, despite him not even trying to work on their marriage, despite the fact that he will not forgive her for kissing Thomas, at the point that he was like, we're done, he only knew she had kissed Thomas because that's all she had done up to that point. Meanwhile, Hope had forgiven Liam for cheating with her, with Steffi, to the point that there was the whole, is baby Hayes Liam's baby? She has forgiven him so much more, and Liam is completely incapable of showing any grace. He also hasn't shown grace to Steffi in the past. He, walked out on Steffi while she was pregnant and crying and like clutching at his pants leg. And yet there is a whole faction of fans that want Hope with Liam. I'm not one of them, but there are a ton of diehard Lope fans that still think that Hope is destined, Dusty Destiny, to be with Liam. And there are some viewers that think that Hope did Liam totally wrong and that she should be the one fighting to win him back. And I will say, when she asked him to try and work things out, I don't think she tried very hard. I do think she made a token effort so she could tell Brooke, well, I asked him to work on the marriage and take me back and he wouldn't. So I do think that. So, and then there's also fans in Hope's corner that think that Liam should be the one to come crawling back to her and try to win her back because they don't want him with Steffi. They want him with Hope and they want to leave Steffi with Finn. So there's definitely a lot of reasons that a faction of fans, a sizable faction of fans, hate this Thomas and Hope thing. I'm enjoying it as long as it's healthy and consensual. I can let the other stuff slide, but I know a lot of you guys don't want to do that. So drop in the comments below if you love Thomas and Hope and you don't care about any of this, shout out for Team Thope. If you hate this pairing, tell me if I missed one of the points or if there's some other reason that you hate them being together. We can all talk about our ships and who we like and who we don't like. And I just wanted to do this video as a shout out to those who hate this pairing, think it's terrible. I wanted to honor your concerns, and so I have. Drop your comments below. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates. If you enjoyed this conversation, as always, we appreciate when you click like, and come back soon for more on Bold and the Beautiful.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.